Welcome, everyone. I'm Dick Deming. I'm Medical Director of MercyOne Cancer Center, and I'm also the founder of Above and Beyond Cancer. Welcome to our weekly cancer education series. It's brought to you in part by a grant from the Iowa Oncology Society. And we've got double good luck today. We've got a colleague of mine and a patient. So let me introduce you, Dr. Susan Beck. Dr. Beck is breast surgeon at the MercyOne Comfort Health Center for Women, where she is at the Katzmann Breast Center, breast surgeon and a colleague and friend of mine. So thank you for being here, Dr. Beck. And with us also is Tammy Harris. And Tammy is a patient of Dr. Beck's. And Tammy is the senior pastor at Elpis Christian Fellowship here in Des Moines, right?
Correct.
So we're going to get to know Tammy a bit and get to know Dr. Beck a bit. And then we're going to talk about Tammy's story, but we're also going to talk about, this is Black History Month. And we know that cancer affects everyone, but cancer does not affect everyone equally.
Yes.
And there are some particular challenges in the African-American community.
Yes.
We're going to talk about that.
Okay, good.
Well, let's get to know you first,
Okay.
Tammy. So Tammy, where are you from? Where were you born?
I was actually born and raised right here
In Des Moines, Iowa.
Go figure, right?
All right.
In Des Moines, Iowa.
And where'd you go to high school?
I went to high school at Tech. I was the last year of Tech High.
Wow.
Go
And
Engineers.
how many in your class?
Ooh, so because I'm a little go-getter, I think I got all my classes done, and I missed the 11th and 12th grade, and I went back for graduation.
Okay.
So I think it was like 300 and something in our class.
And what was your claim to fame when you were in high school?
Radio and TV.
You were doing radio and TV?
I was doing radio and TV.
Wow.
Mhm.
So what was
Radio and
maybe one of your projects that you did while you were in high school?
I would say the music. I'm a singer. So I got away from being in front of the camera to doing some production behind the camera.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it was good for me. And then I went on to work for the Des Moines Radio Group for about 15, 20 years.
And what did you do at the Des Moines Radio?
I actually was just the traffic director.
Okay.
There. Yeah.
Okay.
I did some commercials every once in a
Okay,
while.
by the traffic
Little
director,
jingles.
you mean the reporter that
No,
reported on the
so
traffic?
that's what it
There's
would
an
sound like,
accident.
right?
No.
Yeah, no, I was responsible for the commercials, making sure the commercials ran
I see.
different. You can't have the
That's
same
the
competitors. So we had to,
Okay.
yeah.
So, who's the most famous person you met while you were working with the Des Moines Radio Group?
Aaron Neville's.
Oh, wow.
Aaron Neville.
Did he sing?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Aaron Neville's.
Beautiful.
He was here for the one of the fairs, the year at the
Okay.
fairs, and he was in the studio and did it. So yeah.
Did you get to sing along with him?
No, I did outside the door.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Sung outside the
Good.
window. Yeah,
Okay.
I couldn't go in the room, but
Okay. Well, before we talk about your breast cancer story, let's get to know Dr. Beck a little bit.
Yes.
Dr. Beck has been our guest before. She really needs no introduction. Probably the most famous breast surgeon in Iowa.
yes.
Yeah. So, Sue, Dr. Beck, tell us, where'd you grow up?
Des Moines.
Right here in Des Moines,
Sure.
Iowa. And which high school did you go to?
Roosevelt.
Roosevelt, Rough Rider.
Rider.
So we have an
Okay.
engineer and a Rough Rider.
Hmm.
And what was your claim to fame in high school?
Oh boy. Well,
Were you a shark?
I wanted to be. I wasn't good enough.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to bring that up because I know people who were sharks
Yeah.
in high school,
Oh.
they're very proud
They were
of that.
very good.
That
Yes,
is
it
the
was-
women's synchronized swim.
Okay, because I was trying to figure out what that was.
Not the
I thought you was
Jets and the
telling us
Sharks.
something about Dr. Beck.
I did do swim team though,
Okay.
and it was backstroke.
Okay.
So I was pretty good in that, and then track.
Track.
Okay.
Okay.
Ran hurdles.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
Yeah, the 100 and 220.
Mm-hmm.
One of my friends in high school ran hurdles. His nickname was Scabby.
Oh,
The
wow.
His knees.
His knees.
He wasn't real good, but he was very.
He made a name for
Yes,
himself.
he made a name for himself. That was his
I
claim to
played the-
fame.
Played the flute, and I was in the band and orchestra.
Oh my gosh.
So a little bit of music
Renaissance
background.
Yeah.
woman, a little bit of everything. And then where'd you go to college?
Iowa State.
And what did you graduate?
Zoology.
What did zoology is what you studied?
Because I thought initially when I went up there, I thought I wanted to be a veterinarian.
Wow.
My dad was a dentist, and he said, the animals don't really talk back to you much. And so, my dad was a dentist for many years in West Des Moines. And so initially I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll become a dentist, And so I went to Iowa City and was accepted in dental school, but decided my last year when I was dental assisting my dad, because I did every summer to pay for my car.
Right.
Didn't think I could do that my whole life.
And what did Dad think?
He was okay with that. He was okay, but he was very much also into holistic and how the mouth health affected the whole body.
Yeah.
He was kind of ahead of his time there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
And then you went to medical school here in Des Moines.
yes, it was College of Osteopathic Medicine and Health Sciences at that time. I had two uncles that actually graduated from there earlier. Both practiced in Colorado.
Okay. And when you went to medical school, how many in your class and how many of those were women?
There's about 20 women.
20 women out of a class
Out
of
of maybe almost 200.
200, yeah,
Yeah.
so about 10%. And now I think it's more than 50,
It is.
50%
Absolutely.
are women in
Yes.
medical school. And then from medical school, where did you go for your residency?
So the longest running general surgical residency is in Des Moines here. Well, it is even longer than the one at John Stoddard or Iowa Methodist.
So at Mercy.
So it was,
Gen-
it was Des Moines General.
Des
at
Moines
the time.
General.
Mhm.
Surgery residency program.
Yes, and it was, we only took 4 residents per year. And I was the first general surgical female resident to participate in the program
Wow.
at that time.
And then you practiced general surgery for quite a while,
Yes.
and then had the opportunity to go back and specialize in breast.
Yes.
And how did that, was that something you consciously developed, or did it happen spontaneously, or did it happen because you were a female general surgeon and patients, women with breast cancer, wanted to have you as their surgeon?
Right. Well, I'll try not to be too long-winded, but when I first came out in practices, when laparoscopic surgery first started, and that just kind of blossomed over that first 10 years of my practice. I started practice in 89. And then, it went into many other different procedures, and now it's robotics and everything, which I didn't get into. But I had found that going to all these meetings and listening to all the up and coming people in surgery, I went to the first American Society of Breast Surgeons meeting in LA. It was absolutely the best meeting that I ever attended.
And approximately what year was that?
That was in 99.
Okay.
And that was when they first opened it for membership. And so I went every year after that because I learned so much in trying to make breast cancer care the same all across the country, not just spotty. And that just really resonated with me. And then at the same time, we were opening the breast center at Mercy, at Katzmann Breast Center. And so it just all fit together very well. Of course, I'm too old to be in a fellowship because they didn't have fellowships back then.
Right.
But so we did a lot of our training through yearly or twice a year educational programs and different, and met many really innovative thinkers in surgery, Mel Silverstein in Southern California, and others. To just really improve the care, because back in the day when I first started, if you had a breast lump and you went in for surgery, you didn't know if you'd wake up with your breast or not.
Right. It was just the lumpectomy part was just getting standardized as standard treatment for early stage breast cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what would you say are some other major changes that have happened in breast cancer care during your career?
Right. And you named one, and that was the lumpectomy. And then the addition of adjuvant treatment, the radiation that allowed us to have really good results with lumpectomy. Couldn't have it without that. And then, of course, it was in the 90s that we did the national study for lymph node mapping. And the sentinel lymph node mapping, where we put a dye into the breast, and that is taken up in the lymphatics before we even start surgery within 7 minutes, and gets to that very first lymph node. And that tells us which ones we need to remove and how many. And then, over the years, it's even we've even progressed to actually less and less surgery, where, like I said, back in the day, we would just take all the lymph nodes underneath the arm. And that would lead to a lot of complications, including lymphedema, which would happen about 60% of the time with that kind of surgery. So we've de-escalated over the years a lot of our treatment to now where we can combine the breast surgery with some plastic surgery, reduction surgeries. We've even looking into the future also with cryotherapy, which is just a new thing that you'll see coming up. The types of radiation that we use has changed a lot, which you can touch on, the partial breast irradiation, and now how we have changed that. We don't need to use that catheter system. So it's really been wonderful to see.
And I would say one of the other big changes that's happened in the last 10 years or so is, it used to be you do surgery first and then decide you need chemo and radiation. Now we know that for patients that have a higher stage or higher grade of cancer, we switch it around, do the chemo first.
Exactly.
And then the radiation. Then the surgery and then the radiation.
Yeah, the additional imaging that we have now, which is MRI for the breast, tells us the exact size of the tumors many times. We do a core needle biopsy that the pathologists are able to tell us the behavior, because every cancer has a different personality and a different behavior. No one cancer is the same. No one person is the same who has cancer. Like you said earlier, you just cannot compare from one to the other. And so you're right, that has made a big difference where we flip the sequence. And of course now with the help of plastic surgeons, we can do reconstruction oftentimes at the same time as the surgery.
So we've de-escalated surgery in many cases, less of the breast removed, fewer lymph nodes. We have also decreased radiation, but systemic treatment has become more important and has really helped improve the cure rate for some of those cancers that are more aggressive.
That's so true. And we're able to really tailor the treatment using something called genomics, or the genetics of the tumor. So we can really personalize the treatment. Someone may only need hormone blocking drugs to treat their cancer. Others that have a high rate of recurrence, chemotherapy is chosen. And now there's a whole new grouping of immunologics that are out there that help people that have more advanced stage cancers that have been very successful.
And the triple negative, where now it's
in particular
common that you would use chemotherapy along with immunotherapy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, Tammy, let's get to know you a little bit more in terms of professionally.
Okay.
So tell us how you went from being with the Des Moines Radio Group to being the head pastor at your church.
Yeah, it's interesting, huh? So I was born and raised in the church. My grandfather, uncles were all pastors. I promise you, it's not what I wanted to do. It's not what I wanted to do. I didn't think that was my lot in life,
Really?
but
So how did it happen?
I just finally stopped running. I just stopped running from the call. I literally knew, even growing up, I literally knew that this is probably where my life was going to be because of my heart for God's people. Right. So I literally got in a car, and I think it was around the time cars started having those navigation systems where you can tell it where to go and it would give you the direction. So I just picked a landmark in Omaha, and I got in the car and I let the navigation system tell me where to go. And I stayed in the room until I knew what God was doing in my life. And I didn't come out. I came out once to go shopping, And as soon as I walked through those doors that open up, it was Burlington Coat Factory. I ain't even get in the store. I turned. The Lord's like, go back. So I was in there for another couple of days, and then I came on back home.
Okay. And the church that you grew up in,
Mhm.
you already mentioned that you were a musician, a singer.
Mhm.
Was singing, vocal music very important?
Very
in the
important.
church that you grew up in?
Very important.
Uh-huh.
Very important. It's a major part of my life.
Mhm.
Outside of church choirs, I've had my own community choirs. I've done a lot of choir workshops in our local churches. I teach a lot on praise and worship. So yeah, music is very important.
So if you're the head pastor,
Mhm.
do you get to assign yourself the juicy solos?
Yeah.
Okay. Uh-huh.
So, but I will tell you, I have been waiting. So for the majority of the 20 years, I was the worship leader. But that changed when I found out I had breast cancer.
Okay, tell me what it means to be the worship leader.
Okay, so
Is that a singing role or a speaking role? That's the singing.
That's the singing role.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And I wouldn't let it go because I love music and I
Uh-huh.
love to worship. So I wouldn't let it go. But I kept telling the Lord, if you send me the right somebody, then I'll sit down and just pastor and preach. And so the right somebody showed up right before I found out I had breast cancer.
Okay.
To the point that she kind of got thrown in it. So I only do it now when I want to.
Okay.
Like if I feel like I
Okay.
want to sing today, I get.
Okay. And is that worship leader still with you in the church?
Yes. Now this Sunday,
Okay.
she's also a travel agent.
Okay.
So tonight is rehearsal.
Okay.
But I saw on Facebook that she's in Miami.
Okay.
So
Well, is she so how would you compare?
So now I gotta lead worship Sunday.
So your voice. What would you what famous singer do you most emulate, sound like, would be recognized as?
I think growing up it was Gladys Knight.
Oh, yeah.
Because I have a very low register.
Uh-huh.
And when I want to, I have a high register. So Gladys Knight was always one I looked to. Mahalia Jackson was always one I looked to. There was another lady called Regina. Can't even think of her last name right now. But I always loved women with low registers because when I was coming up, you didn't see that a lot. Everybody sung soprano, but I got that low thing.
Did you get to have some pips?
I did.
Okay.
I did. I had some pips coming up.
Okay.
We sung a lot around Des Moines.
Okay.
I started out at Edmonds Elementary School with Ramona. She was a part of the Sweet Adelines. Remember that group?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I had a whole little group of guys. Yeah.
And then you mentioned that your cancer diagnosis led to a shift in your career.
Yeah, it did.
And was that serendipity or was that tell us a little bit about when did you first hear the words "you have cancer"?
Yeah, we need to find some new words. We need to find I actually was on my way. Well, in October of 23, I've always been big on my mammograms. I would say probably 20 years ago when I lived prior to 20 years, I lived in Atlanta and I was going to the Grady Hospital there. And they told me they saw a spot on my mammogram. I was attending a church that every Sunday we spoke to a screen trying to just cancel debt to buy trams so people can park across the street, catch the tram over. And I was sitting in the car and I started crying and I said, now, if I could speak to a screen and a mountain of whatever amount money they was trying to raise, then surely I can speak to my breast. So literally in the parking lot, in the garage, I took my breast out of my shirt and I laid my hands on it and I prayed. When I went back the following week for another biopsy, there was nothing there. There's nothing there. So I went 20 years without hearing you have cancer. So fast forward, it was in October that I got a call that I needed to come back in and have a digital biopsy. I looked at Dr. Beck for all the right words. For a digital biopsy. In waiting for that news, I end up learning my first husband was murdered in Chicago. So I get in the car and I'm driving to go help his family with the burial arrangements. But before I got in the car to go, I was at a women's conference.
Yes.
And I was up preaching. And I saw this lady come in with the little green Mercy box. And I'm like, I almost lost focus on what I was preaching because I saw a mammogram across the top of it. So immediately when I'm done, I tell my people, don't let that lady leave. So I go to her and this is what I so love about her. I go to her thinking she's just a volunteer. Like she's just somebody that works for Mercy that's dropping off the material. And I said to her, I said, yeah, I'm waiting on a call to find out if I have breast cancer. And she immediately speaks to my faith. But I immediately say, Paul is good, but now Tammy wants to know what's going on with Tammy. And so she told me, we're just going to hold on to your faith. And I said, that's all I have. But I'm also a realist. If I have it, I have it. But what's next? Right? So she said, well, here's my number. Call Monday. I'll see if I can find out anything. Call me Monday and I'll let you know. I couldn't wait till Monday got here. I called Monday. They let me know. And immediately her navigator called me back and said, Dr. Beck said she will see you on Thursday. Because I knew I had to drive to Chicago. I said, who's Dr. Beck? I'm looking for Susan. I want to talk to Susan because I felt comfort when I connected with her. And the lady said that's Dr. Beck.
I see. So it was Dr. Beck that you met at the conference.
I met Dr.
That
Beck.
you thought was a volunteer.
I thought was a volunteer just schlepping in. And it was a Saturday. Just schlepping in. So, and she didn't say she was doctor.
Right.
She just said she wrote Susan on the paper and gave me her cell number.
And then Dr. Beck was the one who told you that you had cancer.
Yes.
And then her scheduler called back and said yes. And Dr. Beck will see
on
you.
her day off. That spoke volumes for me. So in knowing that I do, and then in knowing that the Lord orchestrated it so that I met her, I had comfort. I immediately was comforted by her that she's coming in to see me Thursday. I was so excited. I quit my job. I was working part-time for Link Associates. I just went in the office and I quit. Because I don't know what's next. I don't know what this journey's going to look like. I don't want to start calling in work. And they was like, well, when's your surgery? And I'm like, December 5th. And they like, we're coming back on the 8th. And I'm like, what?
Well, I'm sorry to ask a practical question, but don't you have like health insurance with your job? And weren't you afraid that quitting your job you would lose your insurance?
Because as a pastor, I have insurance.
Oh, okay.
So I was double dipping.
Okay.
And even if I didn't, I'm just one of those. I believe the Lord's going to take
the
care
universe will unfold exactly.
I do.
Okay.
I do, and it did.
So then you met with Dr. Beck, and you got a plan
immediately.
And the plan was surgery first, chemo first,
surgery first.
Surgery first.
So I did the genetic test.
Okay.
And it came back. My numbers were very low.
Okay.
Very low.
The genomic test of the cancer cells.
Yeah.
These don't look like they're very aggressive. You don't need to have chemo first.
Right. So I met with who's my oncologist now. I met with her at the Deming Center on 6th. And she started talking about it, but it sounded like I needed to have another surgical procedure. And I'm like, what? I need to talk to Dr. Beck first. I need to see what she said. I'm not making no decision. Is that okay that I talk to Dr. Beck first? So when I called Dr. Beck, she was like, oh, no problem. I got him here. I'll send him in. Like, that's it? Yeah, this my girl.
Okay.
So I had the test. So I only had to do 30 days of radiation.
Okay. So you had a lumpectomy.
I had a lumpectomy.
And a sentinel node procedure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Dr. Beck or Tammy, maybe explain, exactly what is a lumpectomy and sentinel node procedure.
Well, what she went through was originally the biopsy.
Yes.
And they leave a little marker where we find the distortion. And it's really small. It's nothing that I can see with my eyes or feel. So to do the lumpectomy, we have to put some kind of localizer in there. Some people will use wires. We use a radioactive seed, which we've done since 2010, and through the Mayo protocol, we've done that. And that allowed me to find that area and remove it. And once it's removed, we can x-ray it right in the room and determine,
that you got
that
the
we have
abnormality
everything.
out of the breast.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the sentinel node.
The sentinel
part.
node is the mapping where that is injected into the nipple area, and then that goes up to the lymph, like I talked to you earlier about, and then we know how many lymph nodes to sample.
Okay. And in Tammy's case, the pathology showed.
So she had an invasive ductal, and it was ER/PR positive, HER2 negative.
Okay.
And we had good margins. Everything else was negative. And so
the lymph nodes were
negative.
not involved.
Right.
So a stage 1
Yes.
breast cancer with favorable histology.
Yes.
So lumpectomy, axillary dissection. How did the surgery go? How did recuperation from the surgery?
Recovery was wonderful. I mean,
Mhm.
I had no pain. I'm not a sick person, so I
Any
really
lymphedema, swelling of the
None.
arm? Okay.
none. And I was very cautious. My people were concerned. I think my surgery was on a Thursday.
Mhm.
And my people were concerned I was going to be in church throwing my hands up.
Ah.
So they made me wear an arm brace.
Oh, so you
'Cause
weren't.
just like, yeah. So I ain't tear nothing.
Okay, keep it down.
Right.
Okay.
So I
Keep
sat
it
there.
under control.
I sat there with this brace
Okay,
on, but I got this arm.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
But
and
I
then
was shocked.
gotcha. And then that month or so after the
Mhm.
surgery, you had the radiation.
Yes.
And how many radiation treatments?
I went for 30 days, Monday
Okay.
through Friday.
Okay.
Um,
And how was that in terms of side effects? Did you get a bit of a sunburn?
yes, I did, but not
Mhm.
too bad.
Okay.
Not too bad
Mhm.
from what other people were
Yeah.
telling me and their experience.
Of your breast.
Yeah.
Right to left breast.
My left.
breast.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's still a little
little
still a little
tender?
dark.
Mm.
Not tender.
Okay.
Just still a little dark,
Skin's
but
a
it
little
didn't
dark.
get as dark as what people was telling me was
Okay.
gonna happen. And,
Okay.
so my recovery from that was wonderful. It wasn't the physical recovery; it was the mental.
We're probably not done with your treatment though.
Mm-hmm.
So you had the surgery,
Mm-hmm.
then you had the radiation.
Mhm.
Then did you get prescribed a pill?
Yes.
Yes.
That-
And the name of the pill that you got?
I started with
Anastrozole,
starts with an L. No,
Arimidex, letrozole.
letrozole.
Okay.
But I kept itching, so they thought that was the letrozole was making me itch. Then I went to the
Anastrozole.
anastrozole, and just here probably a month ago, I wake up like somebody just poured water all over me. So we changed that. So I'm back on the
Is it the letrozole?
letrozole.
Okay.
It's tapered, but Dr. Beck also told me to try some vitamin E,
Mhm.
and that has
Yeah.
helped. But it's
So for those who don't know, the letrozole, the anastrozole, or Arimidex, those are anti-estrogen. And the main side effects of those are hot flashes.
ooh,
Ooh, some real hot
and it's
flashes.
not even like I don't even think
No.
it's hot flashes.
Okay.
I don't know what it is.
What would you describe it?
Hot flashes, because I had a hysterectomy in my 30s, so I know
Okay.
what a hot flash is.
Okay. Okay.
That kind of burns from the inside out.
Okay.
This thing, I'm just wet.
Oh, just
I'm not even necessarily
sweating.
hot.
You just
right.
start sweating.
I'm
Yes.
just wet.
Okay.
Just
Hmm.
So from my radiation, and I can't really say radiation caused these things, but I ended up with overactive thyroid. So when I started radiation, I've never been a big girl, but I took pride in my 141. From radiation, I went from 141 to 121.
Oh my gosh.
Right. That was in January, February. My last day was February 16th, right over here.
February 16th of
24.
19.
Because I had the
2024.
surgery
Gotcha.
December
So a year
5th
ago.
of 23.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So after that, July 2nd, no, let me back up. After the radiation, I tried to come here to work out and couldn't figure out why I couldn't make it up them steps. I couldn't breathe. I tried to do the treadmill. I tried to walk around. I had to leave early. I had to come down and sit, not knowing what was going on, to finding out the 1st of July, I had fluid around my heart and my lungs.
Oh.
That explained why I couldn't breathe. I couldn't sing a note long. I couldn't preach. So that played with my mind because that's who I am. That's what I do. So I went through that for a week. They got the fluid off. I was in the hospital for a week. They got the fluid off. And it took several months for me to be able to get into a thyroid doctor, an endocrinologist. Finally did. Started that medicine. I'm now at the place, so I've been on it for about 6 months, but I'm now at the place where I have to decide, am I going to stop taking the pills for a while to see how I do? Or am I going to do the radiation and burn the thyroid?
Mm-hmm.
So the thyroid, the heart stuff, I'm almost 60, and the majority of my life I've had one doctor. Now I got 5 or 6. Right? I got 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say are lingering issues that you're experiencing because of your cancer journey? So obviously.
Yeah. Foggy thoughts.
Okay.
I'm very foggy.
Okay.
I started working again just to get out of the house and struggling just to remember what I did yesterday.
How about preaching?
Oh, no. I don't have no problem.
You don't have a problem with the words there. Are you still
I have a problem with getting my thoughts together to preach. Okay. But I come prepared to preach. Okay. Yeah.
And then you're still having the episodes of intense sweating and at night.
I would say that's really the only thing, that and the fogginess.
Okay.
Outside of that.
And did the shortness of breath go away?
Oh, yeah, that went away
so
once they got the fluid off.
Gotcha. So your physical ability, your stamina and strength.
I'm still a little fatigued.
Okay.
I know my limits. During this time, before I went back to work, which was just only a month now, I took naps every day. Okay. I exercised and took naps every day. So I'm just adjusting to being at work and being sleepy by 2.
How about, do you have any distress over fear that the cancer is going to come back?
None.
No,
I don't.
In what way? In what ways would you say your cancer journey has changed your life?
I'm more empathetic to women. Right. I used to always think I probably was supposed to be a man because I usually don't do women. Women are a little catty and a little messy for me. So growing up, the majority of my best friends were men. I think during this cancer journey, it's made me more empathetic to women and what they deal with and what they go through. And my church is mostly women, right? So now I'm asking them about their doctor's appointments and visits. And when I returned to church, I only missed one Sunday. Although I didn't do much, I was still at church. But just me asking some of my millennials, do you get your mammograms? Now, this was before I even fully understood that you get it at a certain age, right? I'm asking everybody, do you get your mammograms? And when one of my millennials asked me what was a mammogram, I knew that was a problem. That was a major problem for me. And since my cancer surgery, I've had a couple of women that have gotten their mammograms, that there were things seen on their mammogram, had biopsies. One, thank God, hers was good. And then another one, I'm walking her cancer journey out with her. So health has become more important to me now since my cancer journey than it was before.
Your own health, but you're also becoming an advocate for others.
Especially in our community.
Okay. Yeah. And you mentioned that your church, the congregation, is primarily women. Is it
Mhm.
primarily African American women?
Primary African American women.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
What is your, I'm sure you're aware of the statistics
Mhm.
that African American women are often diagnosed at a later stage.
At a later stage.
And that their
Mhm.
outcomes are not as good
Right.
as Caucasian
Right.
women. What is, just as a member of that community,
Mhm.
when you hear those statistics, what do you think of, and what do you think accounts for some of that?
I think a lot of it accounts for the cultures we was raised in. You know, we were raised in a culture where what goes on in your house stays in your house. It was after I found out that I had breast cancer that I shared it on Thanksgiving to learn that 2 of my aunts had bouts of breast cancer. I never knew that. I never knew that. And so it then became, for the seniors, it then became, your story is our story. You have to share your, whether it's breast cancer, whatever it is, you have to share. I've since learned that thyroid is genetic, right? I never knew that. My grandmother had thyroid issues. My aunts have thyroid issues. I never knew that. Nobody's talking. So in our community, we don't share. We have a lot of shame. And when we don't know the truth about things, for example, cancer, we hear cancer, we think we dying. We've called the funeral home and we're making payment plans for a burial plan because that's what we've seen. Women have waited, not gotten the right screenings or didn't get screenings, and they die. So then we think, dang, everybody dies from cancer, but we don't.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that thought that if I have cancer, I'm going to die, it keeps people from getting mammograms? Like
I do.
I'd rather not know
I do.
that I've got
I
cancer.
really do. I think a lot, and even in talking to women, I think a lot of women, African American women, whose grandmother died from cancer or whose mother, they have just taken on that's my lot. I'm going to die one day.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fact that we don't know the statistics because it's not concerned us.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we don't look to find information until we got to have the information. And I think that's some of the stuff I'm trying to come against in our community.
Yeah. So, Dr. Beck, I know that you are, besides being a surgeon, an oncologist, you're someone who's a real advocate for improving public health. Maybe share your perspective, what you have learned about the difference between African American breast cancer, or how women who are African Americans, their presentation, their treatment outcomes, and some of your perspective with working with the African American population.
Yes, I'm very interested in that, and I'm very excited to work with Pastor Tammy on her new initiative for this awareness called "It's All About Her." And I know she's just going to be really out there and be a warrior to help get the statistics out and to increase knowledge. But the biggest thing that I've noticed is exactly what Tammy said: is that no one knows their family history.
No, we don't.
There's no discussion. And that percolates down to having, a very small number of African American women going and having genomic testing. So we don't know what medicine works best for African American women because we don't have the statistics there, as well as just the genetic testing, overall genetics testing. And we do know that there's about 45% of the African American women that are diagnosed with cancer are diagnosed before the age of 50. And so, do we have to start screening earlier? Well, something that can help is knowing family history and asking those questions, which her initiative is really going to help and reach people that may not come to a doctor or a family practice physician, or just talk to someone that they know about that. So I think we need to really encourage that so we can get the data to get the right medications to treat appropriately, and to start screening, asking young women at age 30, trying to figure out if they're high risk or not, even at that age, maybe starting screening, or getting a baseline back in the day when we used to do it at 35. But starting at age 40 may not be soon enough. And so that's what we're looking into, is to see. Because basically these are the majority of these cancers in African American women, especially if they're genetically related or triple negative. And so that's where there's a lot more treatment that has to go into to help those women compared to what you had to go through.
And then it's even learning that the majority of them don't even have a primary care provider.
Yes.
Yeah.
They wait till they don't feel good and go to urgent care or run over to the ER. So they don't have a relationship to even say to my doctor, okay, I just had this conversation with my niece today. Tell your doctor that your aunt had cancer, your great aunts had breast cancer, so you can be screened earlier than later.
You make such a good point, because having a primary care doctor is a very important part of early detection.
Yeah.
Because if you're just going to urgent care when you have an illness, they're just going to focus on the problem and not even ask, when was your last mammogram?
And even in doing, I did grow up learning how to, to check my breast, did that. But I didn't have a lump.
Right.
It wasn't because I felt something.
No.
It was a mass.
And
right. So even thinking you're at home doing your own exams, which I was giving everybody exams Saturday after you left. I was just walking up to women.
That's not as good as a mammogram.
Right. It's
even
not.
Your very experienced fingers.
It's not
as good as
because we wouldn't have known had I not had the mammogram.
So Pastor Tammy, tell me a bit about Talk About Her.
Is that the name all of it? About her.
It's all about her.
It's all about her.
It's all about her.
So it really started out to when I was going through mine. I have a lot of spiritual daughters and sons who were there for me in my recovery time. It was a personal touch. Like, I had some go clean my house that I didn't have the strength to get up to do my laundry, that sort of thing. But who encourages the encourager, right? So it's all about her. Starts off to provide a personal touch of breast cancer awareness, where we engage and we educate, and then we empower other women. So since this started about 6 months ago, other women that I have helped, they are now doing the same thing with the next woman. So we provide the personal touch and care for one another, but then we are providing educational engagements where we talk about the screening and talk about knowing your family history and your story and making sure people have primary health care providers. Because for me, in my mind, if you're 30 and you don't know what a mammogram is, I'm concerned you don't get an annual physical. And then we got to fight through the insurance barrier. So a part of the foundation is to make, so no one has an excuse. I know there's other resources out there. I need to learn about all the resources where women can get free mammograms, but I never want that to be the excuse that they don't go get the mammogram because we can't afford it.
Yeah. Well, wonderful. Are you okay if we open it up for questions?
No, I love questions.
Good. So we've got a
Especially
live
survivors.
studio audience here. So our live studio audience gets the first questions. And then if you happen to be one of those that are watching us live screening, please put your question in the comments section and we'll get to your questions next. So let's start off.
Yeah, we've got a question from it's a viewer on Facebook. Kathy says she heard that insurance companies aren't wanting to pay for earlier screenings. That is concerning. Is that a concern?
Yes. For
earlier screenings.
It's a concern, as well as advanced imaging, such as MRI. First of all, we just need to, like you said, engage, educate, empower. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then also making sure that people know their family history, so they know their risk. And then when they go to their primary care and they can talk about that and give that information, then the physician can do requests and even do a peer-to-peer discussion many times to help with imaging to be covered
with the
by
insurance
insurance.
With the
companies. Yeah.
insurance, yes.
Yeah. And maybe just to add, so when the person asking the question says early screening, so there are guidelines as to when screening starts. And when you just look up the guidelines from the American Cancer Society or the United States Preventive Task Force for Screening, that will tell you the guidelines for average risk individuals. So if someone is average risk, they don't have family history or genetic mutation, a woman can't just go in and say, I'm 18 and I just kind of want to have a mammogram. That is not useful and would be a waste of money. So there are rules, and the rules are there for a reason. But if a woman is at high risk, then a mammogram can be done at an earlier age. But in order for the insurance to cover it, they have to know what the higher risk is.
Yes.
And that's where the conversation comes in. You know, a patient who is, 36 but has a mother and a grandmother and 3 aunts that died of breast cancer. If that's not part of the record, the insurance company won't know that.
Why we need primary.
Why you would be able to be eligible for screening at an earlier age. So all just reinforces what you said, that actually having a primary care doctor is one of the most important things to be able to find cancers at an early stage.
Because even in the primary care provider knowing, every time I come for, whether it's a cough or I hurt my toe, she gonna give me an exam. So they learn that way.
Yeah.
And I think they have a way of maneuvering that.
And there's a difference between screening and diagnostic. So if you're a younger woman and you feel a mass, you still go in. You don't worry about insurance. You go in because that's a diagnostic exam, and that's different. But as far as the screening, basically, and it has been for a long time, is starting at 40 and yearly for average risk. But we know for African American women that oftentimes the diagnosis is it's between age 40 and 50. And so we need to start thinking about screening a little earlier. And that could be as early as 35. But Dr. Deming's right. You don't go in as a teenager for screening. Breasts aren't even completely developed at that time. But your primary care can really help with the questions that you may have, but you can also go online, like you said, as well as even the MercyOne radiology has a good description of when to do screening and when you need diagnostics. And I would encourage you to look up on that.
One of the things about the computer age is, with electronic medical records, the old-fashioned way with paper records, a doctor had to look back and see, well, when was the last mammogram? When is the next mammogram? Now all of that is automated. And when you show up at your primary care doctor's office, it can flag saying, oh, you're overdue for your mammogram, or you're due for your mammogram in a month, or your colonoscopy, or your pap smear, or your PSA, or your lung cancer screening, depending on the situation. So that big data management of medical records really does help make sure that that the screening is done appropriately. But number one, patient has to have a primary care doctor.
Patient has to have a primary care doctor.
Next question.
It's really a comment from Michael, who's watching on Facebook tonight. Comment for one and all. He says, great service to educate the local community. Keep up the great work. So to maybe expand that a little bit, is that educational role becoming easier or more difficult post-pandemic and in the current world that we live in to keep people informed? Are they listening the way they used to?
I think they're listening now in our community and in our culture. I think when somebody is affected by something, you start to pay more attention, right? And even in the pandemic, we weren't in the pandemic, but shoot, during the pandemic, everybody became producers. There was more shows.
Yeah, are you on social media?
was-
Do you have a presence?
Not really, but I'm gonna get one.
Okay.
We're gonna get it. It's all about her page. Probably won't see me on it, but I think that we're in a season now where people are more attentive. We've been locked down for what, 3-4 years, and I think people are now starting to come out, and they're wanting to be educated. They're wanting more information. And again, when I work with the woman who's 70 something who just shared with me last week that she's a breast cancer survivor. And I asked her, when I have an event, would you come and share your story? She's like, no. I said, why not? Because in our community, we hear you got cancer and we think that's death.
Mm-hmm.
But you were 60 something and now 73.
Right.
And people need to know that we
Yes.
can live through this.
Source of hope and inspiration.
Source of hope and inspiration.
Yeah.
So once I hit her with that, and when she saw my little tie today, she was like, whenever you want me, I'm
well,
going to
that's
share my
great.
story.
That's great.
Questions? Yes, Poon.
Yes. So, Tammy,
Yes.
I remember last year at the breast cancer symposium, you shared your story. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to see what you've gone out and have
Amen.
started. So how does women find out about you in the African American community?
So that's a good question. We just announced it Saturday. Actually on social media. So we're getting that information and putting it out. But I will make sure that before this week is over, there will at least be a Facebook presence with how to get in touch with us and what we do offer.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah. So you were at that symposium.
Yes.
So you remember I said that my inhaler was my best friend. I carried that more than I carried my driver's license, right? I don't have that no more. It's in my purse, but I don't have to carry it with me.
Well, not so much a question, but maybe to help the listeners, because I'm on letrozole. I'm a breast cancer survivor,
Yay.
and I've been through all of them. Mastrozole, everything you're in, go, yeah, I know that one.
Yeah.
And everything's going to come with a certain side effects, and
Yeah.
it's going to affect people in different
In different-
various ways. I was told by my oncologist to do the vitamin E,
Mhm.
and I woke up in a drench of sweat.
Wow.
But I was also told that take vitamin E in the morning and the evening
Okay.
helps. But that's
Okay.
going to be different for everyone. Obviously, check with your oncologist. But I thought maybe bringing that up to the listeners, that might help
Yeah. That's
as
good.
well.
Because I
And-
think I just take it at night. Now, after I shared that and Dr. Beck told me try some vitamin E, I told my oncologist that I was taking vitamin E. And she said, that's good. That's what I would have told you to do too. So I'll try it in the morning and the evening.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm curious, with the cancer, it seems like, more and more people are being diagnosed earlier in their lifetime. Do you think that is something that, we're becoming more aware of the, cancer now, or just a general trend, the fact that people are getting cancer earlier?
Dr. Beck, do you want to?
Yeah.
Tammy,
Let me
you
just
wanna-
say
okay,
this.
go
I
ahead,
think
Tammy.
it's always been, but until it hits your house, your livelihood, you don't think about it. And now once people know you have it, and I do a Black History news story with Dr. Beck in October, I'm learning that a lot of people I grew up with were diagnosed with breast cancer within the last year or two. So I think it's always been a thing. But again, had breast cancer not knocked on my door at the end of 23, I wouldn't be dealing with breast cancer education today.
Do you want to comment on the 2025 numbers?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you are correct that breast
Mhm.
cancer we're seeing more cancer in younger adults. In fact, last week it was the cover story on Time magazine. So it isn't just a perception, it is real. So then the question is, why are we seeing more cancers at a younger age? We don't know for sure, but some of the factors are number one, obesity. Number two, our diet and eating highly processed foods. Number three, decrease in physical activity. And I would say number four, the chemicals that we're exposed to throughout our life. I mean, we are now, how many things that are plastic right here? How many chemicals, preservatives, red dye 2, pesticides, herbicides, nitrates that we get trace amounts in just living our life. You don't have to be working with chemicals to be exposed to chemicals the way that everything in the air and the earth comes through the water. So that's probably also contributing to it. So it's multifactorial, lots of different things. Our lifestyle, going when you look around the world, those countries that are low and middle income, you have more people that are doing physical labor and eating, vegetables and fish and things you just in their natural state. So lots of physical activity, low level of obesity, eating healthy. Their cancers they get are more infectious disease cancers, HPV cancers, and hepatitis sorts of cancers. They don't get as high extent colon cancer and breast cancer and endometrial cancer. And then you look to the populations where we're not doing a lot of physical labor. We have access to all sorts of cookies, candies, and cakes. And the cookies and candies and cakes are cheaper than fresh vegetable and fish. And so we see that whole lifestyle change then leads to much higher types of cancer that are caused by obesity and the wrong types of diet. And those include breast cancer and colon cancer and endometrial cancer, just to name a few.
And of course, Iowa is the second in the nation to leading diagnosis of cancer.
In terms of incidence, we're second only to Kentucky in our high incidence of cancer. Colorectal cancer, for example, we've just in the last decade switched from saying people should be screened at age 50 to be screened at age 45. And it's quite possible that within the next few years, we're going to lower that to 40, because that's one of the cancers where we've seen a big shift to cancers, colorectal cancers happening at a younger age. We have run out of time. Already. I was hoping we would end with a song.
Oh,
Do you have a little song to take us out on? No. Okay.
Not tonight.
Okay. Ain't no mountain high enough? No. Okay.
Ain't no mountain high enough. Ain't no valley low enough. Ain't no rivers wide enough to keep me getting to you, baby.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much, Pastor Tammy Harris, founder of
It's
It's all about her. You're going to hear more about it.
Yeah.
And Dr. Susan Beck,
Yes.
breast cancer surgeon extraordinaire.
Yes.
Thank you all for joining us. If you are watching this evening and know someone who would benefit by watching it, it's going to be available on demand for anyone to watch beginning tomorrow at the Above and Beyond Cancer YouTube channel or the Mercy Cancer Center website. And I hope you'll join us again next week. Thanks, everyone.